Okay, folks, we are back. This is episode number 22. I cannot believe it. One thing I wanted to put out before we start, if you have a guest or somebody with a very intriguing story, have them contact me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to have them on. I've opened it up to anybody, so it's not just people in law enforcement. So if anybody wants to come on, tell them to contact me and let's set it up and let's bring them on. I just love opening this up. And I also want to give a shout out to the Chief of Police of Porterville this week, Bobby Rader. He actually posted on his Facebook. So did Porterville Stringer, which I totally support because I just love the fact they're promoting the podcast and we're getting this the message out there, which is awesome. Without any further ado, let's introduce our guest. Some people choose a career. Others answer a calling. At 18 years old, while most were still deciding who they might become, our guest stepped into the world, into the back of an ambulance, and into the life that would ask everything of her. What began as a detour from nursing school became a destiny. A single ride-along revealed what her heart already knew. She belonged in EMS, in a profession where women were often told to be a lion, not a teddy bear. She learned to be both, fierce in crisis, tender in humanity. Her first calls were not gentle introductions, a baby born in chaos, a life slipping away en route, a partner crying in the ambulance bay, and then the radio crackling again, back in service, because that's how it works. She faced anxiety. She dropped out of paramedic school. She failed a final exam. And then, in a moment that could have defined her, she answered every question perfectly when given a second chance. Someone believed in her before she fully believed in herself. She passed, and she never looked back. For more than 20 years across agencies like American Ambulance of Visalia and American Medical Response, she ran towards chaos. She delivered death notifications. She carried strangers through their worst days. She worked through layoffs, personal loss, and the death of coworkers, and the quiet accumulation of trauma that so many first responders carry without language. And then one call changed her. A fatal crash, a husband surviving, a wife gone, words that can never be unsaid. That was the moment she began asking a different question. Who takes care of the rescuers? What followed was not just a program, it was a movement. She built peer support teams from the ground up. She trained agencies. She created safe spaces in a profession that often demands silence. And in 2023, she founded Serve, Support, Heal, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting the mental health of public servants who spend their lives protecting us. Diagnosed with PTSD, forged by loss, defined by fire, a paramedic, a founder, a mentor, a wife to a Visalia fire engineer, a mother of two daughters watching their mother redefine strength. This is not just a story of a first responder. This is the story of a woman who turned her wounds into a refuge for others. Let's welcome my guest. This is Casey Randall. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Every time I do
a movie.
Every time I do one of these things, I get emotional.
Yeah.
Especially when we start talking about the stuff that we're going to talk about. Let's start. You were 18 when you stepped into EMS.
Actually 19.
19,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What did that young version of you believe about that job?
Well, I thought that it was nothing but saving lives and serving your community, which it is, but it's a lot more than that at the same time. And I planned to do nursing, and I had my friend Christine. She was doing nursing too. She's a nurse now, and she's like, I had started school. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When I was 18, I wanted to be a vet.
Okay. All right.
So I was doing animal science classes at COS and started working in a vet clinic and realized that wasn't for me. It was ironically too sad. I don't know why people were easier, but for some reason that was easier to deal with. I don't know, but because I always biology, the human body, all those things fascinated me. So
Got it.
Taking the EMT program and doing ride-alongs, and back then we did clinicals too in the ER. It was kind of like, I was like, oh, these are my people. Like, it just felt like home.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't come from a line of paramedics, and I was kind of the first to go to college, have some family that served in the military, but really no one in the medical field at all or anything like that. So it was weird that was home. But
I would say this, I've been to a lot of calls with you and all the other EMS people, and I will tell you this, every time that ambulance beat us there, I was pretty happy.
Yeah.
Because our CPR skills are rudimentary at best. You guys got the ambul bags and all the other cool stuff. We don't have that. And, you know, we're trying to do it just chest compressions and, those masks that they give us that, often don't work. And so, I have a lot of respect for anybody in EMS because we end up on the same stuff, different jobs, same calls.
That's true.
You're planning on attending San Diego State. Okay. What happened in that first ride along that changed all that?
Well, it was actually in my clinicals.
Okay.
A paramedic, well, at the time EMT2, brought in a code save actually. And I heard, they kind of tell you, oh, this room's going to have this if you want to observe or whatever. And it's a postcode. And so.
And real fast for the folks at home, code means they're non-breathers, but they actually saved this person.
Yes. So this one got pulses back, basically.
Got it.
And when they came rolling into in the hallways, they're doing CPR again. And I was like, oh, shoot, they must have lost pulses again. And I just kind of observed everything and watched them bring this guy back to life again. And it was just like, that was just so cool. Like, I just thought that was so cool. And that's kind of when I started I was still thinking nursing. And so I was like, well, I can maybe work in the ER. That would be really cool. But then my first ride along was with a paramedic who's still working on the ambulance today. And it was just this different environment. It's unique. And I just, like I said, I just really felt at home with everybody. And they were like me in a lot of ways with the dark humor and,
Oh, yeah.
My humor got darker as I got older.
Well, 100%. And you know what? People used to look at us sideways, but we do.
Yeah.
The longer you do that job, the darker your humor gets because it's a defense mechanism.
For sure.
And do you remember the first shift? Like the smells, the sounds, even the fear.
Yeah.
I mean, because I tell you something, man, your first year being a cop, we're just trying to learn, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys, but do you remember those first few calls?
Yeah, I do. One of my first training shifts was, it really kind of, if I can tell the story. It was, we went to, I believe it was El Diamante High School, and it was for a possible 1144, which is a
dead body.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah.
And we get there, and it's Edison worker who he was like down underneath the transformers and somehow got electrocuted. And he was like in the exact position he was when he died, which is not always the case, right?
Yeah.
And so when we get there, like, it was first dead person I've ever seen. And then it hit home because my dad works for Edison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I never really thought about my dad not coming home from work. And so that was kind of like alarming to me. And then it was my dad's coworker, in the end. So that was really kind of defining for like the rest of, stuff that this bothered me. But I didn't think it was okay that it bothered me. So you just kind of shove it down. And
that's all we do.
And that was
shove
one
it
of
down.
my first calls. My first dead guy.
Was it gruesome? Because sometimes I've had some electrocutions that have been very gruesome.
Yeah. So where he was, it was like you could only see like the back half of him because he was up underneath something. So I didn't like get too far in there because it was like we didn't work on him or anything because it had been a while for anybody found him. But it stays in your brain, you know.
Yeah. Did they have to shut down that transformer to get him out?
I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We cleared after that, but yeah, it really hit me like, wow, that's crazy. So.
No, you know what? I mean, I've been to a lot of those, and anything electrical is scary.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You know what? Even for us, you know, it's like we go to down power lines and all that. Mm-hmm. You know, and it would shock me that people would want us to run in there, and I'm like, no, we're not going to. We're going to wait for fire to get here because they got all the cool shit.
Yeah.
And but it's surprising. And if you don't know what you're doing, well, and here's what's said. For a guy that works at Edison who clearly knows what he's doing, for him to get shocked, that means anybody can get shocked.
Yeah. It's scary, that electricity.
One of your first major calls involved a baby that was coding en route. Mm-hmm. What did that moment teach you about the profession?
Oh, my goodness. The word unpredictability stands out. And ruthless would be
big time.
Another one. Yeah.
You know, even when I would train new cops, I used to have to tell new guys, we're not going to be able to save everybody.
Yeah.
And that's very hard for people like us because here's what happens. We're type A people. We think we're going to go in and save the world, and it don't take long for you to realize that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And, you know, all we can do is give people the best we got to give and do what we can. But yeah, and there's something about babies, old people, animals. I think anything that's innocent.
Innocent. And
with
babies, they can't tell you where it hurts.
Correct.
Same with animals.
Correct.
Animals are a lot like pediatrics, actually.
Yeah.
With a lot of like, your assessment has to be on point and, you know, stuff like that.
You know, even talking about a baby, 2 cranksters dipped a baby into boiling water. And the baby died of thermal shock. And I will tell you something. To look at these detectives' faces after it was over, you could see the trauma in their eyes, in their voices. I remember telling one of them, I was like, brother, I'm so sorry you had to go to this type of shit.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, obviously the people went to prison, but that doesn't, I mean, for somebody to do that, it's just, it's god awful.
It's the worst of the worst.
It is the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And you've said you found your partner crying in the ambulance bay. Okay. And then you had to go back into service.
Yeah.
What did that teach you about how EMS handles grief? Because I tell you something, I've cried at work. I think every other cop I've worked with has cried at work. And what sucks is you got about 5 minutes and then you got to get your shit together. We got to go do it again.
Yeah. Well, that's part of where ruthless comes in, that word, because back then especially, there's no, what would be the word? There's no empathy, I guess, from your supervisors or other crews, and you just have to kind of suck it up. And I remember I didn't know that yet. You know, I was still learning, and I remember, you know, I hugged my partner, grown man, right, sobbing, and he's just like, I have all this shit in my ambulance, and none of it could help this baby, right? And it was like, oh shit, like, we can't save everybody. That kind of like ruthless. That's where, and then it's like, He did the paper. We turned the kid over. We did the paperwork. He did the paperwork because I was the EMT at the time. So I cleaned the ambulance, and then it's like they're calling us like, "Hey, you guys got to get back in service." It's like, "What's for lunch?"
Yeah.
Like you just push it down and move on.
Now, you know what? I know I've told a lot of, especially new cops, listen, man, this sucks. And I know that you're hurting, man. But guess what? We can't call the cops because we are the cops, man. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, dude, you got to get your shit together. Because guess what? We're on our way to we could go to the exact same thing. And it's so tough because people look at our jobs a lot of times as we're going to, life-saving. And there's no rhyme or reason to it of who makes it, who don't. Mm-hmm. And I've been to the worst stuff and people lived. And then I went to stuff that looked very minor and everybody's dead. And, and I know you've done the same. Yeah. That's just, and unfortunately, I hate to use this terminology, but that's the nature of the beast. It really is. Yeah. When someone told you to be a lion and not a teddy bear, how did that hit you? Especially being a woman in a kind of a male-dominated field.
Well, it's funny. It's actually the same partner that was crying in the ambulance bay that said that to me. But it was something that at first I was like, oh, haha, like I've been a teddy bear my whole life, even though I'm only 19. But then it really became an issue when I got my medic license. And I would hear that in my head, be a lion, not a teddy bear, because you have to establish dominance in a way, a scene presence. You have to be able to delegate tasks and have like a strong voice so people listen to you. You have to be that kind of leader on scene or, with your partners or whatever. And it's really rough when you first get your medic license and you're solo for the first time and you haven't built that reputation, especially with other agencies and like the hospitals. And so the nurses really give it to you, especially being a female back then. And I wasn't flirting. Like it was, I was a challenge, not like a prospect, I guess. Well, I don't know.
Here's something too. You even have to be able to control people in the house. Yeah. And, we would show up and there would be people firing up on you guys, say them or do this or why are you doing that? Or, people go into almost shock or just throwing all out. And there's many times that I've had to step between people in the house that are trying to get at the EMTs. Yeah. There's also times where I've had to tell people, point at one of you EMTs and go, thank this person. They just saved your family member,
Thank God for you guys, man.
I would say something, though. There's days that you just go, and I know you've done it. Did I just see that? Yeah. Was I just there for that? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What were the unspoken rules for women in EMS when you very first started?
That's a really good question. It wasn't, we weren't really allowed to work with other females in the beginning. You had to have a male partner. I think for safety reasons, that was their line of thought, or train of thought. Yeah,
have one male there. That makes sense.
Probably like lifting, like to have somebody stronger because, you guys are the stronger sex or whatever. So that was, I felt like there were females before me, obviously, but I felt like our unspoken rule amongst ourselves was to kind of like pave the way and like set a good example. Like I really wanted to like build a good reputation and carry myself well. And it was unspoken also that we had to work, like I mentioned the nurses and stuff, but we did have to work harder and show ours that we were more capable than people thought, for people to trust us.
That makes sense. What about dating other EMTs? Was
Yeah.
that looked down upon?
Everybody did it.
Yeah,
It was kind of the culture. Like, I mean, there was
no, and you know what?
people-
That's why I asked that question, because
Yeah.
I tell you something. There was there were anytime. I remember back when I was a rookie. There was one Summer. Do you remember her? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So for the folks at home, she looked like she should be at Baywatch, right? So like she jumps out of the back of this ambulance, and me and the guys were like,
ooh,
"Oh,
Barbie,
right,
hot blonde."
yeah." But honestly, I could honestly say that like at the PD, it's very frowned upon. Does it happen? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But it's frowned upon, and I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody did it, but there's probably this unwritten thing of be careful, because anytime something, it's all fun and games until people break up at work, and then it just turns into a shit show.
It does, and it's very common. It really was back then, but you would have partners that would be spouses.
Oh yeah.
So that was common, and then I met my husband at work. So it is part of the culture, but I think the unwritten rule part of that is like, don't bring your shit to work with you.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
the biggest.
So do you remember? Briggs, who's the captain?
Yeah.
So he was her partner, and so they jump out.
Yeah.
So our nickname for Summer back then was Baywatch, right?
Poor Summer.
Yeah. Did you ever feel you had to suppress like your softness?
Yeah.
To survive.
Totally. A lion, not a teddy bear, right?
Yes, because I could tell you this. I saw some EMTs, and I know you saw it, they didn't last long.
Yeah.
Because, number one, I saw some that tried to get in the middle of what we were trying to do. And I remember one time, I think he's still there. He's a really tall EMT. He's always kind of looked like he was kind of in charge, kind of had his shit together. I would always refer to him. But we were on a call one time, some EMTs trying to get in the middle of what we're doing, and hey, officers, back away and doing this. And I looked at this tall EMT and I was like, you better check this dude. And he's like, he's like, McWilliams is here. He's like, we'll do what McWilliams says. And I was like, when we're dealing with dangerous people that are high or crazy, hey, I want your guys' help, but let's make sure it's safe first.
Yeah.
Because you're not expected to fight these people. I am. And, and so, but no, I look back on, I mean, I had a lot of respect for all the EMTs, because it's a tough gig. I don't care who does it, and what city. You see the worst and the best in humanity in a shift, and then tomorrow's a new day, and let's get after it again. When did you realize that strength and compassion could coexist?
Early on, that's something that I think a lot of people lose in
Big time.
EMS career, probably first responders as
Big
a whole,
time. Big
is
time.
the compassion. But definitely stepping into a leadership role, because you have to have strength in a lot of places for leadership, but showing compassion is part of the way that I lead to, not just to like patients in the community, but to my coworkers or subordinates. So, and because my interest was in mental health from the very beginning, I think about and leaders I look up to, what's really going on? Why are you're not normally like this? Whatever the problem is, there's got to be a bigger picture. Same with patients, everybody has a story.
Oh, yeah. I would tell you this, and you know what? You just said something. I realized that the supervisors that I really liked or I really respected cared about us.
Yeah.
And showed it.
Yeah.
unfortunately, I worked with a bunch of dudes that just didn't give a shit about us and were very vocal about it. And you have to start a shift with somebody that you totally despise, who all he wants to do is get you in trouble at every turn. And I realized that out of the hundreds of people I worked, well, I'll just call it 100. Let's say out of the 100 that I worked for, I'd say less than 5 were people that actually cared about us. The rest were headhunters.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone.
No problem. You dropped out of paramedic school the first time.
Yeah.
What was happening to you internally that made that happen? Because I'm sure there's something that had to happen that made that happen.
So I had bad test anxiety. And I knew about this, but it didn't really hit me hard until medic school. And it was because it was a lot of pressure. And it was really the first thing that I had done in my life that I wanted to achieve that I was having a hard time getting. Up until that, school was always tough for me.
Well, I was going to say, I bet you, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I bet you that test ain't no joke.
No, it's,
it's
not. And so they cram a lot into a little bit amount of time also. And so it was, studying constantly and just a lot of pressure because I really wanted this to be my career.
How long is that program?
It ends up being about 18 months, the one I did.
Oh, shit. That's a long time.
There's a lot more programs now. And I think they're like probably, I think they're 2-year. It's been a while since I've had an intern, but for us, it was about 18 months. 9 months was didactic in classroom portion, and then you have so many hours of your clinicals, and then so many hours of your actual ambulance internship time. So I lost my train of thought. Oh, the test anxiety.
Yeah.
Just the more tests I would fail, because I was not doing well, obviously, because I had to drop out. The harder it got for me.
Well, I was just saying, it always turns into that. It's that snowball.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it.
And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of people get into that situation, and just when you think you're getting a handle, then then you lose another one, and then all of a sudden it spins out of control.
Yeah, it's out of control. And I eventually went to my doctor, and he was prescribed Xanax, and it was very helpful, but it was too little too late at that point.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my grade up in time. So I did drop out the first go around.
Got it. What did anxiety look like for you during that season?
During that season, it was panic attacks.
Okay.
So I vividly remember one instance just driving to school, and like you feel it in your chest. And then I felt like I couldn't breathe, start hyperventilating, and then I'm just like crying uncontrollably. Oops. And I pulled over and I called my husband, boyfriend at the time, and he was kind of like my rock. He could talk me down. And it was, I just felt so out of control of my emotions and all of that. And that was the biggest thing, was panic attacks on test days or after getting a bad grade, crying. Like I'd hide in the bathroom, and it was horrible.
Well, panic attacks, and I've never had one, but I mean, I'm sure going through that. I mean, then now you're trying to go into a classroom and take some damn test. Mm-hmm. I mean, that had to be difficult.
Yeah, especially when you're your own enemy during those things. Like it's your own brain, your own mind freaking yourself out. So,
you know what? Anytime, my mom wasn't big on praise, and anytime I would, military, law enforcement, anything I've ever done, I call my mom, and my mom's best advice was, well, if the other boys can do it, you can do it too. When you failed that final exam, what did that moment feel like? I bet you that was a kick in the gut.
Yeah. It just going back to do that program a second time, I felt took a lot of courage.
Oh, big time.
And then to fail, we had 2 chances to take it, and to fail it the first time was like, I still got another chance. But that second time, it was like, this is over. Like, am I going to do this again? Probably not. What the hell am I going to do with my life now?
Yeah.
Because that was, that was my goal.
Was the company paying for it, or were you coming out of pocket?
It was out of pocket.
And I bet you it was expensive.
Yeah, it was not cheap.
Yeah.
The first time my parents paid for it, and the second time I took out a loan to take it. Yeah.
When you got called into the director's office and you answered every question correctly, what did that prove to you?
It proved to me that I am capable of a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
Because they had faith in me, which was just crazy to me, because my grade on paper was terrible, but they told me, it was my instructor and the director, and they told me I didn't know that I had failed the second time, but I got a phone call to come to the director's office. Like, fuck, I just failed this test.
And did you miss it by a lot or just a little?
You know what? I don't even know.
Okay, they just. Okay,
I walked in and I sat down, and they just started reading questions off, and they told me after, we didn't want you to be able to prepare for this. We wanted to see what you know, and apparently I knew everything, and they knew that I did. So that was that. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you're the only person that's ever aced this exam like this. I think part of it might have been ADHD too, where I'd mark the wrong bubbles and like different things. So to sit down verbally and take the test that way,
Well, obviously you had the knowledge to do it.
I did. I did. Then there's National Registry, and they're like, okay, good luck, pass that test. Which I did, but obviously.
Who was the instructor that believed in you?
Jerry Starkey.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that person still around?
I think so. Okay. I don't think I know he's not instructing anymore. I haven't spoken to him in years, but that meant everything to me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to be. How did that belief shape your career?
It gave me confidence in myself.
Yeah, right.
Knowing that I know I'm a good paramedic. I know that I had a good reputation. I was a good EMT, and that's where the confidence came from, was like basically them having that faith in me for me to prove myself, not only to them, but I proved myself to myself.
Are you bothered by leg veins of any size? Or is leg swelling or pain bugging you or someone you know? I would recommend that you make an appointment with our friends at Sequoia Vein and Wound to take care of it. With a friendly bilingual staff and their years of experience, they are happy to help resolve those issues. Give them a call to get a consult at 559-713-6478 and tell them that Jay Mac sent you. I have often told people self-belief is real.
It's everything.
It is real. And
it's everything. And some people will say that's manifesting, or, however you want to look at it. But I haven't told a lot of people that story. Now it's going to be told to everybody, but I shared it with people who were having trouble, and they were like, no kidding, I had no idea. And well, yeah.
I think it's a great story.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to highlight it.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for leaders to see the potential in someone before they can even see it in themselves?
I think it's crucial for sure, because a lot of people, when they're moving up, their biggest struggle can just be overcoming themselves and their own mind. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I think that if a leader instills confidence, that they have confidence in somebody, then it's easier to build that confidence in yourself. And I try to do that with like trainees and interns. It's a better way to teach.
I tell you what, I wish we did that in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with law enforcement. In my whole career, I never had a supervisor show me how to do anything. I was just supposed to magically know this shit by osmosis, right? And obviously you have to ask your partners and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it's a bummer because I just think in your field, in my field, man, let's take care of our people.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can. We don't have to make it so hard on people that already people don't want to do it because now they've already been treated like shit.
Yeah.
What did passing the National Registry on your first try mean to you? I'm sure that was a big deal.
It was a big deal. It's a hard test for a lot of people. My husband took it twice. That's a joke that we have. I took the paramedic program twice. He took the National Registry twice. But for me, I was one of the first classes to take it on a computer.
Okay.
And they have you go into like your own little booth and you have like headphones, noise canceling headphones on. There's like a little timer on the screen so you know exactly how much time you have. And for me, that was like,
did you have to take it down? You have to take it. Is that a state thing that you go take it at a state facility?
I took it in Fresno.
Okay.
I think you can do it in town now.
Yeah. Because there's one right there by the McDonald's that I did my private investigator, the one right there at Demery and Mineral King.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How many questions on that test?
Well, it varied. So, gosh, it's been so long. I think they would say if you get more than 170, then I don't know what it bases it on. Like if you miss too many, then you get more questions to try and balance out your pass fail.
That makes sense.
But if they cut you off at 170, you either sucked the whole time or you got all of those right or, did really well. But randomly selected people would get the full exam. I got the full exam. And I was thinking I sucked the whole time, but
yeah.
I was really surprised that I had passed.
What are we talking? 2 hour, 3 hour test?
Yeah. I want to say I got like 280 questions or something like that.
Yeah, that's a big test.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you became a full-time paramedic in 2008, what did you think success would look like at that time? Because I'm sure it changed later on down the road.
Well, that was a big year for me. I got married that year.
Got it.
I got finished and got a full-time job and I bought a car, like, those kinds of things. And for me, success was just like doing the thing that I worked hard to get.
How much more does a paramedic get paid than a regular EMT?
Back then, it was not much. It was like a buck or two.
Okay.
Now it's the poor EMTs do not get paid.
Are they still doing like minimum wage?
Yeah. A lot recently, like through 2020, wages for us skyrocketed. I would say skyrocketed because people weren't wanting to do the job after COVID and all that stuff.
I can see that.
So it got really competitive. Wage-wise for everybody.
Because now you got to do whatever you can to just recruit people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so medics are always valued more than EMTs by companies, which I don't really think is the best thing because they're both valuable. But EMTs can oftentimes be treated like they're expendable. Like there's always another class coming through.
Well, with paramedics too, you guys can actually administer medication.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's kind of the cutoff
Advanced
between
life support.
Yeah.
Administer medications, do minor surgeries, IVs, advanced airways, things like that.
You actually can do like the trachs and all that, the tracheotomies.
It's technically a skill, but it's not. It's a national registry skill. It's not California skill.
Got it.
But and then EMTs they're moving up a little bit, but that's where you get the difference in education and the difference in skill set is where you get the pay difference. But I want to say it was $9 an hour when I got my medic, and I think minimum wage was like $6.75 or I don't even remember.
So it really wasn't that much more.
Yeah. But it was still more money than I was making.
Yeah. You've given multiple death notifications. Why did the one in 2017 regarding the motor vehicle accident, why did that one affect you differently?
I have no idea.
Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it.
I go and speak to EMT students as part of like the education the nonprofit does. And one of the things I tell them, I ask them, what's define a critical incident? And, they say like bus accidents and natural disasters and, pediatric anything but pediatric death and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, all of those things. But mine was a traffic accident.
Yeah.
I had been on probably hundreds at that point.
Yeah.
And you just don't know when it's going to hit you.
You don't.
And it was, I think because I am the one that pronounced his wife dead and said, okay, moved on to him. That was probably the hardest part because he was a patient also.
Yeah.
Versus like pronouncing someone and then telling the family who's not a patient.
Yeah.
And I have to work on him, and he's repeatedly, how's my wife? How's my wife? And he's like, I know you're not telling me what you really know. And so I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want to make his condition worse. But at that point, it was like, the drive from Exeter to Cuyah Delta it's a long drive. So
it is. Even rolling code, it takes a minute.
Yeah, it's a drive. And so I finally told him that she didn't make it, and the sound that man made, I can still hear it very clearly to this day.
Oh, yeah.
And it just never went away. It just it just ate at me for weeks after that.
Yeah. I've had to give a lot of those death notifications, and it's a gut punch to them and to us. But for you, what was it like to tell someone or a spouse that isn't coming home? What's it like to have to tell somebody that? I mean, I've done it so many times, and sometimes it wouldn't bother me. And then other times I would get in the car and I would just be like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it was how the person took it. A lot of times I think people go into shock. They kind of shut down. They don't say much. But you're right. Then you have the people that want to scream at the air, drop to their knees, roll around on the ground. And then now, I mean...
Everyone handles it differently.
They
Some
do.
go into like business mode and they're like, okay, what do we do next?
Yeah. Where do we go?
Circumstances too. Like, is it a hospice expected kind of thing, or was it, super tragic? And I think I find inspiration in a partner that I had where she looks at as much dignity as possible you can give to the patient and to their family. And so like using clear language and just making sure like they know that you did everything possible to bring them back and they did everything right, I think were probably the biggest things for me. And then just the compassion afterwards. It's okay to be human back. Like I would tear up, and that's okay. Like to remember that that's okay to,
I think there's something about cop work. We tend to not do that. And, we have this macho way about us. But man, when I would get in my car alone, there's just so many times. I'm writing my second book right now, and I've written multiple chapters about stuff that I will never forget. And girl, some of these things will be with me till the day I die.
Yeah.
You've said you never know which call is going to be the critical one. Mm-hmm. How does that unpredictability, how does that really affect first responders?
Well, I can really only speak for myself, but
I'm sure you've seen it, how it affects people.
Yeah, you never know. And for me, after it's that anticipation of something possibly being the critical one, it can cause some anxiety there. That might be a little bit of PTSD that occurs, but for me, every time that pager would go off, it was like, oh, like I need to be cardioverted after that. Then I wait, and it's like a priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and then you hear priority 1, and I'm like, oh, is it a code, or oh, is it a traffic accident? And when I got to that point in my career, it's like, you kind of think about what this job is really doing to me.
Big time.
And you can when you work with someone so closely like we do on the ambulance, you can see it in your partners too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think it's the same. It just that anticipation, it can really weigh on you.
I can tell you this, I'm sure you see it, but we get so close with the people we work with. You can tell by the look in their eyes.
Yep.
Voice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had partners give me these looks on certain calls, and this is when we know, okay, here we go. We're going into the shit.
That silent communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very telling, but it's also, here's the sad part, I think, with all law enforcement, let's just say first responders, period. Mm-hmm. Okay, fire, ambulance, all of us. We tend to get jaded because here's the problem. We see too much of the same stuff. We get to see, it's the front, I always say this, it's a front row seat to the greatest show on earth,
right?
But there's a price to be paid. And the problem is we tend to get jaded.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You can't fall apart on every call, because if you did, you're not going to last.
It's true. It's true.
When did you realize either that call with a motor vehicle accident, when did you realize this one ain't leaving me?
After.
Yeah.
Because
when it gets quiet.
Right. After sometimes it would hit me like I'd turn over a patient, give the report, and get the hell out of there because I knew I was going to get emotional for whatever reason. Sometimes it's after the report's written and you're in the ambulance and you're talking it over with your partner, and it's like, but that's processing it too.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's not until you get off work.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, a lot of times, husband works shift work. And if the kids are at school, like you said, when it gets quiet, and you're home alone.
Yeah.
But that's one specifically, part of the issue was I never allowed myself to feel much of it. And that's why it really changed my life, because it's kind of like the start of my downhill.
Yeah.
Starting to suppress everything rather than process it. I
always say this, sooner or later, the bill comes due. And you know that, right? Right? And that's just, I mean, I've said this, I would get home, take off my uniform, sit in a bathtub for about 30 minutes soaking, and there's times I cried in the bathtub, girl. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, and you're sitting there just going, man, I'd be like, all right, dude, go in, get myself something to eat, grab a beer, whatever, get as much sleep as I could, because guess what? In the morning, we were rocking and rolling again.
You got to put your boots back on.
How did your organization at that time, how did they deal with mental health? I bet you it was non-existent back then.
Yeah. It was. From like the top down, there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
But with like amongst my coworkers, people that had kind of, been through it, the peer support before it had a title of peer support, that's where I found the most comfort and way to process it. And but like as far as like my agency giving resources or time off or stuff like that, it didn't exist. It just didn't exist.
You know what? Still doesn't exist at Vice PD, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And I hate to have to admit this, I think there's only about, out of 100,000 calls for service, I think there was maybe a half a dozen times when somebody asked me, hey, Jay, are you okay? Did anybody ever ask you that? Hey, Casey, are you okay?
I was the one asking it.
Yeah,
usually.
Okay. Got it.
But I do have, there are, besides my husband who was always there, but there are certain people who I could not have gotten through my career without them.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember my first PD code, one of them, other crews that would come to the hospital to check on me.
Got it.
Stuff like that. And
That's
we
cool.
try to do that with each other, but it's all from the peers. A lot's wasn't offered from the companies.
What's the ambulance company that's out there by Walmart on Noble?
American.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
American. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the one you worked for? Did you work for them?
That's where I started.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I technically work for them now too.
Okay.
But I've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah. Well, last year I had to
Unfortunately.
take my CPR stuff with Mark Walker there. Do
Oh,
you know Mark?
yeah.
A sweetheart of a
Yeah,
dude.
he is.
You transported your own grandfather before he passed.
Yeah.
What's it like to have a family member be a patient?
It's not easy.
No.
I remember because he had prostate cancer.
Got it.
And so I had told my family.
So you guys kind of know it was coming, or?
Not the way, because he ended up dying from an aneurysm.
Oh, okay.
From his treatment, not from the cancer. But it was, I told my family, and I still tell them, call me first.
Yeah, yeah.
And so my mom calls me and I'm asleep at the station. It's like 7 a.m. She's like, Grandma says something's wrong with Grandpa. And I got up, drove across town. And for it, I remember seeing him and my partner actually acted first, because for me it was like, oh my God, it's my grandpa, and I could tell instantly that he was altered, his combative, and it was probably something having to do with his brain. I just and I froze, which we can't do because we're the help, right? And so my grandma was mad at him because she just thought he was being an asshole, but he was confused. And so my partner was kind of like, hey, Casey, we need to, snapped me out of it. And then, you transport your own grandparent stat to the hospital, and, it's rough.
How old did he live to be?
Oh, my grandma was 80. I want to say he was 76.
Okay.
I could be very wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, that was hard. I transported my grandma too, for something more minor, but she was different because she was basically giving me shit your needles are dull and you're not good at IVs, and and that's a lot of pressure too from a different
time.
So I'm like, Grandma, everyone says I'm gentle, it's fine.
Well, in fact, my next question, while working, your grandmother coded at the cath lab.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you compartmentalize that? I mean, that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, that one I was on shift as the supervisor, and it was New Year's Eve, and I knew I wasn't getting anyone to come in and work for me. So when my mom called and said, Grandma's at the ER, she's having a heart attack, I go in there and she's having the big one. So I kind of kissed her on the forehead, and they rush her up to cath lab. And we're sitting in the waiting room with my family, and I hear code blue, ER cath lab, or not ER, but cath lab. And I'm like, my grandma's in the cath lab right now. And I didn't really do very well. I got up and I ran back there, and they're like, whoa, you can't go, you can't go in. I've been in full uniform. So, and I'm like, that's my grandma. What is going on? And they said they just got her back. And so it was, didn't last very long, but my family knew, they didn't have a clue what was happening.
Yeah.
And so you have, after that, it's like, okay, let's put this in the box and then go be strong for the family.
Yes.
It's tough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, And I've been in those situations, girl, and you know what? And it's tough because, yes, we have information John Q. Citizen doesn't have.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss, right?
Yes, it is. And then you get bombarded with 1,001 questions, too. You had a death of a coworker, the library fire, your aunt's passing. How did all that trauma, how did it build up in you? Because that's a lot. All at one time.
Like a ticking time bomb.
Big time.
And when his name was Estevan, when he passed away, we had just started our peer support team officially.
How did he die?
He was on a run.
Okay.
And he's a healthy kid, and just sudden cardiac arrest. I don't think, when last I heard, we were all waiting for the autopsy, and it was inconclusive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
sounds like just a freak thing then.
And it was in town, and so our ambulances responded to him. And I was at the coast actually with my mom. I just got there when I got the phone call, and we drove back. And the hospital was great. Like, they left him in a room with his family, and they let everybody come in and, see him and say goodbye and those kinds of things. But we just started the peer support. And so that was the kind of the role that I took along with a couple other people on the team. And the next day, even, I was at work making sure, everybody's okay. And you forget to make sure yourself is okay when you're doing
we
those
tend
things.
to take the back seat.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
The library fire, was that the Porterville one?
That was the Porterville one, and that was Porterville Fire had peer support through, I think, Cal Fire, but Imperial Ambulance, we did the peer support for them.
Got it.
And that was tough. I literally made myself sick because it can affect your immune system if you're not filling your own cup back up. You're just giving.
Did you know Mark Lightfoot?
Mark Lightfoot.
He was a detective in Porterville, and he was the one that had to investigate that. And he came in here and he debriefed that thing from beginning to end on one of the episodes.
Okay.
You ever get a chance to listen to it, but he runs it down from point A to the very end. And I remember when that happened. That was just a horrible deal, and to lose two firefighters, and then to have the suspects be so young. I mean, that was
the whole thing.
It just what it did. You know what it did? It rocked the law enforcement community. It rocked the EMS community.
It did.
It rocked everybody.
It did, and it was crazy because I remember telling a friend where we did the procession from the hospital to, I guess, the funeral home. And there was lots of ambulances in it, law enforcement, whatever. And it was crazy driving. It was like living that movie, or like you see them on Facebook or whatever. But driving through my own community, seeing faces I recognize, that was so different. It was so different. It was wild.
I tell you something. There was a couple of times they're coming down the freeway, and we get sent to each one of the overpasses. Because you got to make sure people aren't going to throw stuff off, because there are some people that are going to be like that. But there's been multiple times I've been one of those overpasses, and my eyes would get moist. This lump would materialize in my throat, and before I know it, I am literally in tears watching that hearse go by. And you just think, really by the grace of God, girl, that could have been me and you just as easy. And when you first confronted with the possibility that you might have PTSD, what did that feel like? Or really, what made you come to the conclusion, I think I have PTSD?
Honestly, it wasn't until my therapist told me.
Got it.
But realizing that I needed to talk to somebody was that I don't know that I remember the exact moment, but it kind of like spiraled out of control for me. And when she said you very clearly have PTSD, it felt like failure to me, honestly.
You know, it's a hard thing to hear.
It was so hard to hear.
Yes, because
But I would never tell somebody else that you failed. You know, like
yeah.
But hard on myself, of course.
I could tell you this, girl. Me and all the cops, and you know, we were all guilty of it. We all had it, and how we manifested it. It manifested itself in bad ways. A lot of drinking, a lot of chasing women, a lot of doing a lot of stuff that we shouldn't be doing. And I do not make excuses of why we did that. But I just realized, I mean, you know, every time, our life was on the line a lot. And so it really, we become adrenaline junkies, right?
Yeah.
Which is not good. But you're right there with us, girl. You know what I mean? You're seeing all this death, all this carnage, all the stuff.
Yeah.
The fire guys are right there with us. And it manifests itself. I mean, I've seen a lot of people lose their careers in law enforcement, lose their careers at EMTs, lose their careers in fire because they start doing shit that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you really want to break it down to brass tacks, it's PTSD.
It is. It is. And there was, you know, you think about PTSD and you think, oh, it's flashbacks and it's, you know, nightmares and stuff like that. But there's so much more to it that I didn't realize it was sneaking up on me, which felt really shitty because I'm supposed to be this like peer support person in the county and I can see it in other people. Like, hello.
I think for me, girl, I had a really hair-triggered temper.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I didn't like to be like that, but the slightest stuff would piss me off. Everything was a pain in the ass. And on my days off, I wanted to crawl up on my couch and watch movies when I'm still trying to take care of a little girl.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun for her. You know, we can talk, you know, now my kid's 20, we can talk about it now. But, you know, I told her, I said, hey, believe it or not, that couch with that front door locked and the movies going, that was the only time I felt safe. That's PTSD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You said yours was kind of shame, that you kind of felt like, oh my God, I failed.
Yes. Yeah. Shame is a good word.
I tell you something. It took me it took me longer than you to realize that I had it, but you know, I just realized, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm shooting. I mean, I had to shoot somebody, you know, I had to fight so many people. I had to see the worst in all these things. And there just comes a point in time where I'm 55 now and I've been retired for 5 years, but it took me a long time to come to grips with it and realize, you know what, hey, I'm not the Terminator, right? All this stuff is affecting me. And then I did, you know, I went through a divorce and, you know, I did all this other stuff. And I mean, I just realized now, I really wish there was some type of, I mean, I've said this before, I think the PD should have a full-time psychologist.
Yeah.
You know,
departments are doing that too now.
Well, yeah, your bigger agencies do.
Yeah.
I think Vice has gotten big enough. They should do it. I mean, yes, it's a money. It's going to come out. I mean, it's not cheap.
There's grants for that kind of
stuff. There is.
Too.
And I just think this, we've got to do something to take care of our people.
Yes.
And we're going to get to, because I love what you're doing now. Why do first responders have a hard time admitting that they need help? Because I've seen so many dudes.
Besides ego? No, I'm just kidding.
No. I think ego's a big factor. It really is. It very much so.
It is. With men especially.
Big time.
And there is a difference because, like you're saying, yours manifested in anger. It's very common male symptom, PTSD.
Yeah.
PTSD. Irritability and anger are two different things too.
Yeah.
And mine irritability was huge. But I think because of exactly what I felt when I was told I had PTSD was the shame. I think shame is a huge, especially in EMS, it's a very common feeling that people share without realizing that everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
And through therapy, I learned that my inner core emotion was shame. That's so sad. Like,
Yeah.
and I have nothing to be ashamed of, but we're the ones taking care of people. So there can't be anything wrong with the caretaker, right?
Yeah.
And I joke with Jeff, my husband, about even a hero needs a hero, because I'm like, if you get hurt in a fire, guess who's taking you to the hospital?
Yeah.
The ambulance. If you get shot on a call, guess who's taking you? If your brothers don't throw you in their patrol car and take you, the ambulance is taking you to the hospital. So I joke, you know Matt Jones.
Very well.
He's a good friend of ours, and I joke with both of them, like, oh, even a hero needs a hero, and that's us,
Yeah.
So I know for me specifically, and I think it's common, it's admitting you need help is feeling like you're failing because you have to take care of everyone else.
Yeah. Jonesy's a sweetheart, by the way, but I'll tell you this. Something about law enforcement, it's macho.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's macho.
Very macho.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a macho environment. Nobody ever wants to say, I need to see the psychologist. In fact, the only time I ever got to go see the psychologist is when I shot somebody. And then guess what? I had 1 hour session. All right, Jay, get your ass back to work. And that was it. And there's gotta be more to it than that. And but it's also, then you come back and now you're starting to get made fun of. Hey, you had to go get your head shrunk, and what's wrong with you? Or even this. Hey, are you a pussy? Yeah. Right? Man up, dude. Yeah. And it's
that's sanctuary trauma too. That's a whole people you trust and feel like you should be comfortable and safe with. Now they're challenging you and making fun of you and
big time
making you feel like
anytime somebody went to go see the psychologist, they always got it. What nearly broke you?
Incident or
collectively, anything?
Well, I think collectively suppressing everything, because I was so disassociated from my feelings about anything that it disassociated me from my relationships at home too.
Oh yeah.
And ultimately led to me being in a place where I thought that I didn't deserve life.
Yeah. So,
and there was one specific incident that I have with a friend that I really don't want to get into, but that was where I was like, I decided that I was going to take my own life.
Oh, wow.
And I really haven't told a lot of people that, but I think it's important this is what you're doing on your podcast, right? Is people share their stories.
Yeah.
But I really felt like I didn't deserve the life that I had. I didn't deserve the husband I had. I didn't deserve my children. I was weighing them down. And the world would be better off if I wasn't here.
Yeah.
Which is just sounds crazy now.
Yeah.
But that's where I was at. And it was because I was so completely disassociated from my feelings and what I was seeing every day at work and dealing with, that's where I was. That's just crazy.
I lost my sister to suicide, so I'm very sensitive when it comes to this.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And no, me too. And but I will tell you this. You said something just a second ago, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I wasn't good in relationships because everything got on my nerves. I wasn't good about talking about stuff. And I realize it now. I'm living my best life now, and I've got a very supportive wife. My first marriage was not good, and it was very volatile, and that's never good. But I wished I would have been with my wife now back then, because I think it would have helped me. But I realized that, I was not a good husband. And I think, and a lot of this was because of all the crap that I saw.
Yeah.
And then I worked gangs for several years, and that's not good, because now you're taking already machoism from here and you're kicking it up
Yeah, that's true.
The umpteenth degree, and thinking that we're the baddest people on the planet. And what finally saved you?
Prayer.
Oh, really? Are you very religious?
I mean, I'm not a church every Sunday person. I was raised Catholic.
Are you still Catholic? Pentecostal? What do you know?
I'm not Catholic. I wouldn't say I'm anything, but
Non-denominational.
Yeah. But when I had reached that turning point, I had a plan in place to kill myself, and but I had to go to work, and at this time I was working on the reservation in Porterville in the ambulance, and
that's a rough place to work.
It can be, yeah.
Yes.
It can
very
be.
rough.
In a way, it was very healing for me. I just had this conversation with Jeff the other day, because he's like, it pushed you over the edge. And I'm like, actually, I think it helped me to last another 3 years, honestly. But it is a rough place to work. That's a whole nother story. But so I had to go to work, and it's a lot slower paced up there. So I had a lot of time to sit with my feelings about everything. And it scared me because it was final. But I think God was working on me. And so I reached out to someone who I had trained in peer support with me. And his name's Grant Killingsworth. He works at Exeter now. But and I was just like, I need prayer. And actually, he doesn't even know why. And he said, okay, I got you. And he sent me a few scripture to read and things like that. And then I called my other partner, Frances, and I was like, I just need you to pray for me. And she's the same prayer warrior, just, she doesn't need to know why. She just did it. And I really believe that that's what changed everything for me.
God bless you, girl.
Yeah. And then
whatever works.
And then being able to forgive myself and ask God for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that's where it was.
Yeah.
That's what did it.
After that fatal crash, you started researching mental health solutions, pretty much, right? What were you looking for?
I was looking for anything other than what we already had, which was not a lot.
I was going to say, it probably wasn't much,
but critical incident stress debriefs is like the biggest thing. And that is very reactive, because it takes a critical incident to have a debrief on it, right?
Yeah.
It's very structured. It's formal. A lot of times agencies would require us to go. We didn't have a choice. And then it's once the debrief is done, that's it. There's not a lot of follow-up with it.
There's no follow-up.
Not that it's a bad thing. It's very, very good when it's utilized properly. It's even better when it's utilized with peer support. So I was looking for something that wasn't that. And that was more proactive, more less formal, and didn't require necessarily an incident at work to trigger it.
I would tell you something. The last critical debrief that I had, I won't talk about it on here because it hits a lot of people right where they live and breathe.
Okay.
But I will say this. Very emotional, because it was involving one of our own. Mm-hmm. And I remember a dispatcher is crying about what she had to hear over the phone. And almost selfishly, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What about us that had to walk in the fucking house?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also realize they're hearing nothing but trauma over that phone.
Yeah.
And then I remember going, you know what, Jay? Once we were done, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. They brought in multiple psychologists, the EMTs, fire people. I mean, we were all there, and you had 20-something people sitting around the table, and that's a big critical debrief because
that is a big one. Yeah.
As I say, normally half a dozen people, right?
Yeah.
But this one was 20 plus, and I'm going to tell you something. When we walked out of that place, everybody was mentally wasted.
Yeah.
Emotionally wasted. And, you just go, oh, my gosh, and
It's heavy.
It is heavy. But I'm glad at least, the first 10 years of my career, there was no such thing as no critical debrief. We would show up. All right, Jay, go get your lunch and then come back in 30 minutes later and let's do this all over again.
Yeah.
How did you discover peer support?
The internet.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was just kind of a Google search. I don't even remember what. Mental health for first responders or, something like that. And it was something, it just popped up, peer support. And I was like, oh, what's this? And so I started looking into it. And I want to say California is so far behind compared to, especially with EMS, compared to the rest of the nation. But it was, something already being done on the East Coast. And I just kind of looked into it a little bit more to try and find classes, if there was such a thing. And then that led me to, around the same time, I had a transfer, took a patient to Fresno, and there was a paramedic there that had a peer support badge on his ID card that we had to wear on the front of our uniforms. And so I asked him about it because I was like, hey, I've heard this term, like what's this about? And so they had a program already. So then that led me to start researching what they were doing. And,
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So,
here's the thing about California law enforcement. We're the gold standard. So the rest of the country follows us as far as law enforcement.
That's really cool.
But for a lot of years, we didn't have this peer support stuff. So I love it. When you proposed creating a peer support program at American Ambulance, what was their reaction?
I think I had support from my direct supervisors. So it was a little bit of a harder sell to management, but more on the side of the liability they were concerned with.
I think there is liability.
Yeah. But what liability do you want? Your employees offing themselves or the liability of helping them? So they really they were on board in a sense that they were going to pay for the classes, but they were hesitant because the liability. So when I was writing the policy and like we were going through like selecting people to send it through the class and stuff like that, it was like, I want to see this in the policy. I want to see that in our selections. Like, there needs to be a process and things like that, which I mean, is completely understandable. So I think at the time that I brought it forward,
did you get like any flat out resistance or were they?
Not from American.
Okay. Cool.
Because do you know Eve there at American, Eve Price?
I don't.
She's the manager there now. And she was like, I remember we were talking about it. I think I was at a conference with her that American sent me to get more research on the mental health stuff. And it was like the Vegas conference or whatever. And I just remember her saying like, "Why you can do all this research and stuff, but just implement it, just do it." And that was the first time I was really like, "Am I capable of like developing a program and starting a program?" And I am. So it was her like, "Well, who's going to do it? You need to do it." know. So and having her support.
I was going to say, at least she was supportive, which is awesome because.
And she still is.
I think at Visalia, I think if we would have had somebody at the beginning, I'm sure there would have been a lot of resistance because back then it was like this. Go handle your calls.
Yeah.
And we don't got time for this shit. You know what I mean? But it's important.
It is.
And what it is we're all race cars and we run in the red. Whatever we can do to get us out of that red and bring us back down, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
What did building that first team in 2019, what did that feel like?
Swimming upstream.
I'm sure it did.
Because you're talking about resistance, and management gave us the tools, and we went to classes, and we hired
How long are those
our
classes?
first. Well, okay, so it depends on what class you take. The first class that we did was the critical incident stress management course with an emphasis in peer support.
Got it.
Through Ken Katz in Fresno, who kind of did the whole peer support movement there.
Okay.
And so that class is 2 days, I think. The basic peer support class that I like to do now is a 3-day course, 8 hours a day. So
24 hours?
Yeah, so not too long, but that's pretty.
I was going to say that's still long enough that if you're asking agencies to take people out of a rotation, to go to a class. So I love the fact that any organization that's willing to do that, because obviously if you're in the classroom, you're not out here shagging calls.
That's true. That's true.
Why is the peer support different from like traditional therapy? What makes them different?
So peer support is one-on-one like therapy. We don't have that professional license per se. It's a certificate. Peer support is good. They say it's like it helps you to process whatever it is that you're going through. Just talking about the incident or the problem or whatever. But when it goes above kind of what we're meant to handle, what's good about peer support is we have the resources to be able to connect you to what it is that you need, and the training to like recognize like, oh, you probably need rehab or you probably need therapy. How about EMDR? Like things like that to recognize those needs and then get people in contact or in touch with the right resources for them. So that's kind of like maybe like the go-between.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then if it goes beyond peer support, and then the other big thing to it is besides being like peer-to-peer, so you're talking to someone that's knows exactly what you're going through because they've been there themselves. They're running the calls with you. They're your direct peer versus a licensed therapist that might not know anything about it.
Correct. And and I was going to say, I think that's the problem with psychologists.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. I think you're probably one of the first people I'm going to ask this question to.
Uh-oh. No pressure.
No, but it's an important one.
Okay.
Why do you think first responders, why do you think we're always so vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. To burnout?
There's science behind it.
Okay.
Cortisol is a big word, right?
Yes.
I think it's popular. It's like a trend because people talk about
cortisol levels. That's a real deal.
Being in a state of fight or flight or like hypervigilance builds cortisol in your body. And the problem with first responders is we don't have a lot of time to process that hormone.
We don't.
Get rid of it. And a lot of it happens at night in your sleep. And how many of us sleep well? EMS and fire work the 24, 48-hour shifts.
You get woken up all the time.
Yep. And so you never get to, your body doesn't process and get rid of that higher levels. So eventually you're in a constant state of fight or flight. You're hypervigilant all the time. You talked about only feeling safe at home with the door locked. Well, because you're in public, you're like waiting for that next.
Hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, that's one of the things. Also, this EMS specifically doesn't have the meal times.
Yeah.
you're eating at weird times of the night. Like they say, it's best to stop eating after 6 o'clock at night, and sometimes EMS isn't getting their breakfast till 3 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
So, having the time and the focus to be able to like have the right foods at the right time, and the sleep, those are huge.
I would tell you this.
Hydrating.
I was going to say, I think one of our biggest problems that I've seen, okay, I had to have my gallbladder removed, a bunch of the dispatchers. I know a bunch of cops because guess what? The first couple years, I'm living off of a big gulp with Dr. Pepper in it.
Diet.
Sometimes my dinner would be some Kit Kats or some Reese's peanut butter cups or some donuts that I bought at 7-Eleven, right? And it is, you're right. We eat like shit. We don't
sleep like shit.
Yes. And
hours suck.
Yes. And, I remember those first couple years with Visalia, man. We would just get buried in calls, man. It was call to call to call to call.
That is rough.
Now, later on in life, when I knew the city, but back when I started, there was no GPS, girl. I'm looking at a map. A6 and Z7. All right, this is where they connect.
Thomas Brothers.
Yes. You know what I mean? And, that was even stress, just trying to find your locations.
Yep. It's like there's the science to it, but then there's also the super high highs, the release of your endorphins and then there's the low lows where you're just like up and down all the time.
It is
the normal public doesn't see that. And then the general public has 2, maybe 3 super traumatic things that they see in their life. And first responders have, 6 or 7 a day sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So those are that's why we get to that burnout. Plus missing, home life. You miss holidays,
we miss Christmases and
first
birthdays.
steps and birthdays. So all those things. Vicious cycle.
Big time. How do you build trust in a culture built on toughness? That's got to be a hard one to do, girl.
I think it's even when you think you're not making an impact, you still are. So even just that text message like, hey, I hope you're okay. That call had to suck. I'm here if you need me. And remembering to follow through with that too, I think is where the trust starts. As a woman, there's that more tender motherly side that we talk about suppressing, but I think that helps us to build a trusting relationship to some aspect too, that I think men I'm assuming would have a harder time getting.
We totally do. I will tell you something, girl. My best buddy retired. He went on a stress retirement in 2010. I know this. Life for me changed because that was my sounding board.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to talk to him. And when I didn't have that anymore, and then I got to be in the schools for like 8 years collectively in my career. And then I had an assistant principal who ended up being like a father to me. And then I could bounce it off of him. And, and then when I wasn't around him, I realized I had these states of times in my career where I just had to process this stuff by myself. And when I didn't have those sounding boards, I can honestly admit I struggled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's
on
hard.
The ambulance, your partner matters.
Big
if you
time.
have a partner that you just can't talk to and
it sucks.
It can make for, just like you said, like a period of time where you're struggling, and then you get those good partners that just change your life because
big time
they're just good people or whatever.
Well, they ended up, and I'm sure it's the same for you. They end up becoming like family.
Yes,
is what happens.
100%.
In 2023, you founded Serve Support Heal. What made you decide to formalize that mission?
It was there were things that I wanted to accomplish and I wanted to do that being bound by the agency, I wasn't able to do.
Yeah.
Which made sense. Their money, they want to focus on their people and do the things for peer support wise for their employees. And that makes perfect sense. And I was already kind of like helping other agency, like Visalia Fire, helping them establish their own team and working with Visalia PD and their team and stuff like that. So I was already kind of doing that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do so much more. I wanted to fundraise and be able to like, when possible, donate financially to somebody who was struggling or hold classes for different topics, not just train my own team or employees I worked for. I just wanted to expand and do so much more. And one of the classes that I took taught like, you can establish this as a nonprofit or tag on to like someone else's nonprofit, which is the easier way to do it. But I just wanted to be able to do things independently. And, I have a board and stuff like that, but they see the same mission that I see. So that was ultimately the
God bless you,
deciding
girl.
factor. Yeah.
What was the scariest part of filing for a 5013C? Because I've heard that that's not the easiest thing. And I've heard there's a lot of bullshit that comes with it.
I'm going to tell you, I cheated.
Okay.
So it is hard. And I am not business minded at all. Like I have all the ideas. I can throw a great fundraiser. I can do lots of things. But the business part of things or even sometimes the financial part of things I need help with. And I have a friend who did her own nonprofit and I just called her up and we were trying to do it on our own first.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. Like we did do a lot of research and we were starting the process on our own. And then I had a conversation with my friend Wendy and she's like, oh, here's this phone number. Call Bonnie. She will file the paperwork for you. And I went in and I sat down one-on-one with her and she did the paperwork for me and I gave her money.
Nice.
And it was out of my own pocket, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What does serve, support, heal? What does it stand for beyond the words?
I think it stands for the way public servants live their lives. In service, EMS specifically actually do some literal healing, right? Physical healing, but also mental healing is part of it for all public servants. And then the support part of it comes from peers supporting each other versus like having to pay a professional to help support you.
Love it.
Yeah. It feels like identity in a way for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah. Your first fundraiser was in 2024. Mm-hmm. How'd that go?
Really, really, really good.
Okay. Love to hear that.
Really good. I have a bad habit of underestimating myself. And when I first started talking about it with Jeff, he's like, you need to, actually his words were poor choice of words, like men often do. He's like, you need to grow up. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like think bigger. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, let's serve dinner in our backyard, and he's like, no, think bigger. So we actually booked a venue. We had it catered. I had 160 people show up and nothing but positive results from it. We raised, I think we started the year with $62 in the bank account. We raised over $7,000. So
love it.
It was a huge success. Yeah.
Well, if I ever get big, girl, you're going to get some money.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'll hold you to it. This is being recorded.
No, I love the mission. And I love what you guys are standing for, because I just think it was lacking for so long.
Yeah.
And for somebody to, like you, to pick up the mantle and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. That's what it takes. It takes somebody to go, we're doing this. And so just from me to you, girl, I support it. I totally support it.
Thank you.
What gaps exist in first responder mental health that most people won't or don't ever see?
I think the amount of traumatic experiences, like
Yeah.
the sheer numbers involved is huge. And it's why I think we're 30% more likely to commit suicide. We're, 40% higher burnout rate than other fields, like, all of these things, because the frequency of the things that we see, people, complete strangers on their worst
Big time.
day of their lives, right? Even
Well,
if
let's take you. You were an EMT or you were in EMS 17 years.
22.
All right, 22.
But yeah,
All right. So,
medic for 17
all right. So,
or 18.
let's just go. All right, let's go 20. Let's round it off at 20.
Okay.
Okay. How many calls a day on an average?
How many calls a day?
Yeah.
And at 24, a slow day would be 8, but
Yeah. So
my busiest was 22 calls in 24 hours.
All right, let's just round it off at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, that's a 3-day shift, right? All right. Or no, that would be 2 days back to back, or how'd you guys do it?
60 hours usually.
Oh, okay, so 60.
48 and then a 12.
Okay, 48
Yeah.
and a 12. Okay. So think of those numbers, girl.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the problem. You're right. We never have enough time to process it, because guess what? The next call's coming.
Yeah.
How do you convince agencies that prevention matters?
I've been told I'm very persistent.
I could actually see that in you.
Yeah. I think it's you have to talk to the right people, because some people will never be convinced. Correct. And I'll use Visalia's fire specifically because I would go to them, different captains or, a chief or whatever, and say, like, you guys need to look into this peer support stuff. And they're like, oh, we have our CISD, or we have our, these guys are trained in that. And getting someone to sit down to listen, to hear there are similarities between the two, yes, but to hear the specific differences, because a lot of people that don't know, they think they're the same thing, and they're completely different from each other. And telling them, like, showing them even numbers, that, these are the people that wanted to quit their jobs that are still around, and you've already invested so much as a company or as an agency into these people. Why wouldn't you want them to stay around? Why don't you want to retain them? Why would you? Looking at incidences where people, get busted for substance use, or come to work drunk, or, get written up for having a temper or whatever. What's looking at the reasons why, and you can prevent those incidences by supporting their mental health. Trying to explain.
Was there a first person in command staff that actually listened to you, sat down with you, and go, okay, this is what we're going to do?
At Visalia?
Yeah.
They got a new chief, actually.
Okay.
And getting him to take a meeting with me, and he was from he's from Wyoming, and I guess his agency had lost some people to suicide, and so that's what I mean by talking to the right person, someone that's been touched by a direct loss like that. He was passionate about it, and there were people underneath him that were open to it, but you have to get
you got to have
from
a
the
boss.
top down.
Yeah, you got to have a boss.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
So,
what does resilience actually mean? Not just the buzzword.
Yeah.
Okay. But the lived experience.
The lived experience to be resilient is to come from your lowest point back to where you were before.
Yeah.
That would probably be the best definition.
I think that's a great definition.
Yeah. And beyond resilience, though, is that post-traumatic growth where you get even better than where you were when you started. So resilience is great. You have to have it to do the work that we do.
Big time. You know what? I had some years, man, where I was unstoppable, and then I had some other years. You know what? I realize now I always try to go to units where I was the lone wolf. Okay? Working in the schools, working on Mooney, right? Working downtown.
Oh, okay.
I like running my own show, right? And I was busy. But I look back on now, too, I wasn't big on asking for help. And so a lot of times when I got in fights, I was cracking people and, doing what I had to do to stay alive.
Yeah.
You said your last call on the reservation involved a stroke patient and something shifted. What happened internally that made you think, okay, something's different here? What's going on?
Yeah. I realized I wasn't performing up to my own standards.
Yeah.
And I tell this story to people and they're like, what's the big deal? Like, to make a long story short, she was having stroke-like symptoms. We had recently changed destination policies for stroke patients, and I couldn't remember the policy. And I had just taught everybody on the reservation the policy.
Yeah.
So I couldn't recall it. And so I had a fire rider with me, and I took my phone out and I pulled up the policy and I said, read this to me while I was working on the patient. And so he read it to me. And he's thinking this is, just another day. And I'm thinking, I never have to look at my fucking policies. Like, what is wrong with you? Treated the patient fine. Like, I didn't do anything, that affected her health or anything like that. I just second guessed myself. And that was a turning point for me to be like, I need some time off.
Well, too, you're a type A, I'm a type A. Okay.
Yeah.
Problem with type A, we get shit done.
Well,
but we hold ourselves honestly almost to an ungodly standard. Right.
Yeah. And we're our own worst critics.
Correct.
Too.
And how did you know it was finally time to step away?
I think when I looked at that patient and started to cry.
Oh, yeah.
Not because of, because I felt like I was doing a bad job, but because there's a look that they get of like being terrified, because they are aware of what's happening to their body and to themselves. And I don't even know what to call it, but it's, stroke patients specifically get this look, or patients that are about to die or, something like that. And it just hit me like I felt emotionally.
One of the docs in the ER told me one time that a stroke, he said, anytime somebody's having a stroke, think of this in your mind. They're getting brain damage as this is happening. Mm-hmm. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
It is. And really, there's not a whole lot I can do for that.
Yeah.
But get them to the hospital. Yeah. So you feel helpless at the same time. And normally I'm very empathetic, and I can literally feel other people's emotions, and in this case, fear. So that was probably because I can get it. You be a robot during the call.
Oh, big time.
Right. But then after is when you're allowed to feel the emotions. But in the background, I had been doing a lot of therapy and work on not disassociating from home. Like, this is the work that I did to come back from my feeling suicidal and all of that stuff. And so I was having a hard time at work now because of it. So not wanting to go back to where I was completely disassociated from everything in my life by disassociating to get through a call at work, that was when I was like, no, I need to take some time.
was retiring from EMS? Do you think it was the grief? Do you think it was relief? Do you think it was an identity crisis? What do you think it was at that time? Probably a cumulative of all of it.
Yeah, but I don't know if I put this in the information that I sent you, but I had gotten to a point where I was going to come back to work in June. And that was my goal the whole time, was to come back. I was not telling everybody, I'll be back. And I did a lot of work in therapy. A psychiatrist, got on some, I didn't get on meds till after June, but just like my focus was getting back to my job. And then my best friend was killed in a car accident. And the day before I was supposed to be cleared by my doctor to go back to work. And obviously I'm a mess at that appointment.
Oh, yeah. Hit you right where you live and breathe,
Yep.
I'm sure.
And he's like, you need more time. You've had a setback. And those words, my best friend is not a setback. Like
Yeah.
The grief is what took me out, because I was already, my biggest PTSD struggle was car accidents. And now my best friend was killed in one. And you lose your best friend, a piece of you dies with your,
Yes.
you're never that same person, because that person's gone. And so that was what took me out officially, was the grief from losing her.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, girl, I am a master storyteller. Okay?
Yes. It's story time.
Yeah. And so I tell a story on every episode, and I got a story for you.
Okay.
Okay. So last episode, I talked about, I originally started at Tulare. I had something unfortunate happen. I resigned there shortly after starting there.
I listened to that.
Okay. So, and I talked about how it really rebuilt me, and it did. And this is what happened. Okay. Growing up, I was only raised by my mother. Me and my dad lived less than 5 miles from each other. But I didn't talk to my dad from the time I was 5 until I was 27 years old. No birthday cards, no telephone calls, nothing. And that abandonment, I wore it like armor. And I had this major chip on my shoulder because of it. And losing my job should have been something that probably should have destroyed me, but it actually resurrected me. And this is what happened. I ran into my dad's wife. Okay. Now, my dad was married 9 times. Okay.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And so this was wife number, I don't know, I think she was 6 or 7, but they had been together for like 25 years. So I run into her. At the time, I don't know if it was just divine intervention or just dumb luck. Okay. But I won't lie, there was not warmth there. I did not like this woman. Okay. But you know this, healing often comes from messengers that we couldn't fathom. Okay.
Yeah.
And so she encouraged me to call my dad. And I remember walking away from her going, no way. But over the next couple of days, her words kept on going through my mind. Call him. Just call him. Okay. So I picked up the phone to call him, and my hand was trembling because I had to swallow a lot of pride, because me and my mom and my sister, we lived in the bad parts of town. My mom was on welfare. My dad had become a bail bondsman, making more money than most men in our small town could ever imagine. But it was that Kafka play, because what he'd done, he had built this wealth, but he was like this because he always thought somebody was trying to take it, and he just wanted to protect it. So it made him a real hard ass, right? Because he thought people wanted stuff from him. And so I called him. Surprising, he picked up the phone. More surprising, he actually invited me to his home. So I showed up, and I will never forget this. And I get emotional now even talking about it. But the first time seeing him after all these years, he wasn't this big figure in my mind that I had built him up to be, right? He was now an older man, and he was wounded. He was going through a divorce. So his life, that, you know, this marriage he had of 25 years had dissolved, and now he was grasping at straws himself, okay? So I meet up with him, and he says, hey, I'm starting a bounty hunter school. And I said, oh, great. And he's like, why don't you come and teach like handcuffing and firearms and, you know, defensive tactics? And I said, yeah, partly because I needed the work, because he was going to pay me. But more so than this, the first time in my life, my dad needed my help. Okay. And what it did, girl, is it started to change me, because we started off as kind of like two prize fighters kind of circling each other. And over the next 10 years, we became true father and son. And I finally got to sit down with my dad, laugh, get to know him, learn his story. And we didn't get to say all the things that we never wanted to say, you know, that we always wanted to say. But my dad told me that during those times that A, he loved me, and B, he was proud of me. And what it did, girl, is it took that chip on my shoulder and it got rid of it. And that was probably the most wholesome time of my life where I felt whole, okay? I had good 10 years with him before dementia finally robbed him of his faculties. But that time is a time in my life that I will always be grateful for, because it brought me close with my dad. So losing my job brought me close with my dad. Girl, I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world, because those 10 years were truly transformative of me. And it made me not only a better man, it made me a better person. It made me a better husband. It made me a better father. It made me a better cop. It just made me better all the way around, because I got to bury a lot of that anger and a lot of that stuff I had towards my dad. So
Everything happens for a reason.
it does. It does. It does.
I really believe that.
Moving back to you.
Okay.
Who are you without the uniform?
I have no idea. Honestly.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to say, hey, we've all struggled with it. And girl, that's why I laugh,
I know.
because guess what? I ain't no better than you. I've struggled with it too.
Yeah. One of the first, the first thought I had when my husband told me that my friend Karina had died was, I'm never going back to the ambulance.
Yeah, I could see that.
So in addition to my grief of losing my friend, I was grieving myself in a way and my career, because the only place I felt like I had value was at work.
Oh, yeah.
The only place, even though I had worked hard to realize I had value at home too, but the only thing I was good at was being a paramedic. The place where I most felt at home was at work, on shift. Like all of these things that my parents raised me to do what you love and love what you do. And that was their example from the very beginning. Even if you're only making minimum wage, my dad would say, like, you still make sure you do what you love, because they hated their jobs, honestly.
Yeah,
So that's where that came from. But, with all of that, like deciding not to go back to work led to like a depression different kind of depression this time.
Yeah.
So there is that grief of like grieving your career, and retirees know it.
Big time.
Whether they want to admit it or not, they know
I admit it, because I'll tell you
Yeah.
this. Our identity gets wrapped up in it.
Because
It's like when people would see you back then, it's not, hey, there's Casey. Oh, hey, there's Casey, the paramedic, right?
Yeah.
That's what people are thinking. They see you in the uniform. They see you in the ambulance. Nobody's just going, oh, hey, what's up, Casey? Right?
Yeah.
people look at us different. I tell you what, when I used to see cops get fired, I used to feel so bad for them because they lose the way that they're putting food on the table and their identity in the same day.
In the same day.
And I've seen it rock people and hit people right where they live and breathe. How did your husband, a Visa fire engineer, support you through that time?
I don't know. I don't know where he finds the strength because I cannot do any of it without him. I've been unemployed, technically. So he's working his ass off, the poor guy. And he's just like a machine. He doesn't really have anything left for himself, which he doesn't make me feel bad about it either, but I do feel a little bit of guilt with it. But he's supportive, not just financially. I think that's where men default to, right? I need to provide.
No, we do.
And we're a very traditional household. But I also come from a family where my mom worked full time my whole life, and I value work and I value a career. I don't have one anymore. So that, and I know he told me, we had a conversation. He's like, it's really hard to be your partner right now, which I get. You know, not only am I crazy, but the from everything from, telling him that I was at a point where I wanted to end my own life to now I can't do my job anymore, and that's all we've known.
Well, and then now you're losing that other paycheck. Yeah, so I'm sure that created some stress.
It's not easy, but he wakes up and he chooses me every day, and I choose him every day, and that's like the foundation that I need. He provides that foundation. Yeah. And he might not be the best with words or, he's not going around saying, I'm so proud of my wife, like this and that, but I don't need that. I need someone to be a strong foundation for our family. And he's just
brother, wherever you're at, God bless you, man. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, he's
you know
amazing.
What I mean?
He's amazing.
What have your daughters learned from watching your journey?
They've learned to be very independent.
Yeah.
They've learned to speak their minds. Yeah. They're never going to be called a teddy bear, that's for sure. They're lions. Yeah. I think that they've learned the value of $1 and hard work. Yeah. Having both parents in shift work is tough. Those kids are resilient, let me tell you. And it's weird to have me home all the time now. Yeah. So, but also they've learned that it's okay to cry. Yeah. In losing people in my life, but especially Karina, my therapist told me, you're not going to be able to help them. This is your loss, not theirs. It's okay to, because that was a lot of guilt that I had was, my kids hearing me scream from down the hall, hearing about my friend and them come running and being worried about me and trying to comfort me. These are my children. Like, they're not supposed to be doing that,
Well, and I will tell you this, we all want to give our kids better than we had.
Yeah.
And, 100%. It's got to be a good thing to have mom at home. And in a way. And I think every parent, if we could have our choices, whether being out there doing this crazy job or being home with their kids, I'm sure most people are going to choose their kids.
Most people,
Yes.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
What do you hope that Emma and Ellie understand about strength?
I hope that they understand that even diamonds break.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the biggest, because it's hard to accept for yourself sometimes.
What's the biggest lie we tell first responders?
That it's all glory.
Yeah. Yeah. I've often said this, people think driving around in this patrol car is glamorous. It's anything but.
Yeah.
And, you're listening to that radio and you just know, all right, something bad happened over here on the other side of town. I'm assigned to the other side of town. Here comes my turn in the barrel. Mm-hmm. And what's the cost of silence?
Well, for me, it was almost my life.
Yeah.
You can.
I think
lose
most of us
everything.
implode. I think if we don't get it out some way, somehow, somewhere, if you watch a lot of my episodes, a lot of these are cautionary tales.
Yeah.
I've said, there's been some misfit toys on here. And if you look at these stories, they're resilient, but they really end in a really triumphant way. But man, I've had some people come on here and say some crazy shit. What does real leadership look like in a crisis?
Yeah, you lead from the back. It looks like someone that can be level-headed enough to give direction and is not going to ask somebody to do something they wouldn't do themselves.
Damn right. That's a major problem in law enforcement.
I think that's goes across first responders.
Yeah, we had a history of promoting a lot of people that were incompetent, and then they made shitty calls, and then they wanted to blame people when it went south, and it was just shit. How do you lead when you yourself are personally struggling? That's got to be hard.
I think transparency is really important.
Big time.
Because you can shove it down and compartment, put it in your little box, right? But being transparent about, an example is when my grandma was in cath lab and I was the supervisor on duty. One of the first things I did was send a message out to all my crews telling them, my grandma's in cath lab having a major heart attack. I'm with my family. I'm still here for you guys if you need anything. But just so you know, this is what I'm dealing with. I might not pick up the phone right away. So
yeah, you're not on the couch with your feet up eating bonbons. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So
got some real shit going on.
Yeah. And you do have to. There's a lot of self-sacrifice in leadership for sure.
Big time.
But
I think good leaders put their people first.
Absolutely.
I think shit leaders put themselves first.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had to work with a lot of people like that.
There's a lot of people who are leaders because that's all they did was put themselves first.
Yeah.
And it seems like those are the people that usually get ahead, unfortunately.
Yeah, big time.
But one of the things I remember in an interview one time, I said, I want to be in management or be a supervisor so I can take care of my crews. And you're going to see me put them first over the company.
Yeah, I'm right.
And that's just the way it is.
And that's how it should be. And I love that came out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Because I tell you this, I think we tend to bury our people. And
unfortunately,
if you could redesign EMS from scratch, from the ground up, what would you change?
It would not be a for-profit thing.
Yeah.
I think that it's really, medicine in general is profit-driven, unfortunately.
Big time.
And I think that the best thing you could do is either make them part of public agencies or nonprofits.
Yeah. I was going to say, somebody told me one time, all right, think about how close downtown Visalia is to Sequoia Delta. All right, let's just call it 6 blocks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Somebody told me that an ambulance ride from downtown Visalia to Sequoia Delta is about $2,500. Is that true?
There's a base rate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you're ALS, you've used the paramedic, let's say their skills, the base rate is, I want to say it's $2,500. I was never in billing or anything, but, and then same with the base rate for EMT basic call is going to be, you're going to start at a certain price, and then it goes up for mileage. It goes up for, if you use oxygen, you get billed for that. If you use an IV, you get billed for those things. So yeah.
What's it cost to give somebody a ride down to Vista Del Mar in Ventura?
Well, the mileage.
So 250, let's say 250 miles, and so what are we talking? A $10,000 ambulance ride?
I mean, I want to say last time, this is probably 10 years ago, but it was like $30 a mile.
Okay.
So
$6,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Easy. But they're not paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I know, but I think this is when the system is broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just is, right? What are we still getting wrong with PTSD?
The stigma that once you're there, you can't come back, I think.
Yeah.
Like they even say, don't call it a disorder, call it an injury. But I think the biggest part of it is managing the symptoms, not necessarily completely being cured.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it totally does.
But thinking about someone who has PTSD or has been diagnosed as damaged goods, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's not true.
No, I totally agree. And
Yeah.
I would say this. My second episode, my best friend, buddy who left and went out on stress, I tell you, man, there was a real negative connotation about him when he left,
It's sad.
And I've told some people, dude, PTSD is real. And guess I manifest it in a different way than him. And, I've had some guys come on here and they talk about, alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, all these other things because of PTSD, and so it's a real thing.
It is.
And I think that I just keep going back to it. Let's take care of our people.
Yeah.
But why does it got to be such a, oh shit, there's something wrong. Oh, you can't handle it anymore. What's wrong with you, dude?
Yeah.
That's what comes out. And and here's my question. Is healing linear? Because I don't think it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
You can. Because it's not, because I could have healed and gone back to work, or I could have healed and did what I did and not going back to work. Because I still have healed from a lot of the stuff. But what I've decided is that it's not worth the mental and physical drain and my health to go back to that job that's gotten to me to where I am. It's just not worth it anymore. So I think we're also getting wrong that you need to be ashamed if you admit or you're diagnosed with PTSD, which is, I felt like a failure, like I told you. But it's not something to be ashamed of. It's very, very, very common. I think more people have it than we realize too.
You know what I realized? I think every person I worked with had it.
Yeah.
And, but I think the culture now is becoming more cognizant of it. And I also think that now if somebody, I would hope that if somebody came into the bosses at Visalia PD and said, hey, I need a break, or I need to go talk to somebody, then I would hope that they would get them the help and there wouldn't be that negative connotation with this person, or they wouldn't be ostracized.
Yeah.
I mean, because the nightmare scenario for us is if they can give you a not fit for duty. You know what I mean? And I've seen some guys that happen to, they take their gun and badge, and a lot of people don't come back after that.
That's what we struggle with law enforcement
Yeah.
to provide service to is
Yeah.
that, because that's their livelihood.
Big time.
So
What does forgiveness of yourself look like?
It looks like it's hard work, because like we talked about, we are our own worst
Big time.
critic and all of that. But if you can forgive yourself for something, and that is everything, because that person or that incident or whatever, you might not be forgiven for it. But if you can forgive yourself, that's the first step in moving on or healing.
I agree. This show for me has been so cathartic
Oh, I bet.
because I get to come in here and talk about stuff that affected me, and I get to provide a service to people in our field.
Right.
And it's important to me. And I put my heart and soul into these things because I take this serious. I take it on board, and I take it very serious. You deserve the utmost respect. So when I'm preparing for these shows, I come up with these questions because I want to show people the emotional toll that this job has taken on you and me and anybody else who comes on here. And you deserve the respect. And you know, for me, I think that I've talked about stuff on here that sometimes it's not fun talking about, but it really happened. And so I would rather I'm at the point in my life where I'm completely transparent. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Everything on here, it all happened, and I'm willing to. And I think that being transparent about those things and not letting my past control me, I think it's probably been one of the more healing times. It
That's
really
good.
has.
Well, you're giving people a voice that don't normally have one.
Big time.
Especially like episode with the female officer that got the DUI.
Yeah. Sam.
Who's going to give her a chance to speak? Like, it was awesome that I loved listening to her episode. And I thought
she did a hell of a job. And you know what? And that takes guts.
Yes.
It took a lot of guts to come on here and say that. I will tell you this. Me and her were in the same unit. And she's a sweetheart of a gal.
Yeah.
And you know what? And she had just come off Police Officer of the Year. She had worked her ass off. And, but she's now doing this wedding planning and stuff, and she's thriving and she's doing well. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
And how do you rest without guilt? For me, that was hard.
I don't know that I am able to yet. Yeah. Honestly.
It took me some years, but I've been out for 5 years now. And, I think that that's helped me.
Yeah.
We tend to hold on to guilt, which is not good.
That accident that they just had on 99, the 58 car.
Oh, yeah. Big old, but a lot of people lost their lives. That was a big deal.
I got a text, looking for people to come in, and I was like, I looked at Jeff and I'm like, damn, this is the first time that I really want to help, and it's been a year, over a year. And I feel so guilty that I have this skill set, that I have this knowledge, that I was good at what I did. And I'm choosing myself over public service.
You know what I was getting ready to tell you, Casey? You've earned the right to do what's best for you.
I know.
And I mean, I get emotional saying this stuff, but it's true. Choosing yourself or choosing your family, girl, you've earned the right. You don't know anybody anything.
Jeff said he said, it's not your time to serve anymore. Let someone else do it.
I agree.
But it's still hard to hear,
No, it is. But girl, you don't have to go put yourself back into that meat grinder because you don't know the ramifications that could come from it.
Yeah.
When you look back at the 18-year-old Casey, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that you're not going to be the same person on the other side of this, and that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to go into a lightning round.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
You're going to take me from tears to a lightning round?
Yes. But there's a method to my madness.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay. Toughest call of your career.
Well, it's that car accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
One word that describes EMS.
Wild.
Lion or teddy bear?
Lion.
Most underrated trait in a paramedic.
Compassion.
One habit that kept you sane.
A habit. Caffeine.
A sound that still triggers you.
Anything that sounds like the pager going off.
Got it. Best leadership advice you ever received.
Lead from the back.
Worst advice you ever received.
I probably don't remember because it was bad advice, honestly.
All right. What scares you now?
The unknown.
Okay. What gives you hope?
God.
Okay. If a first responder is listening right now and is barely holding it together, what would you say to them?
You are not alone.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. What does strong mean to you today?
It means surviving.
Yeah. For me, I have a lot, only 10% of a police academy makes it to retirement. So I have a lot of...
That's insane numbers.
Yeah, that's a horrible statistic.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of pride that I have a very robust retirement check coming in, and I'm very proud of it.
You should be.
Yeah, big time. Because going through my career, girl, so many guys did not make it, terminated, injured, prosecuted. I got lucky, girl. I got lucky.
Is it luck or did you
I
built it the way you built it?
I had some good decision making. There's no doubt about that. However, there's a little luck. We always say in law enforcement, 1 second too early or 1 second too late makes all the difference in the world, right?
For sure.
Is there a moment you wished you could relive?
I really don't have any regrets. So I don't, if I were to relive something, it'd be like a happy day.
Okay, got it.
So I mean, like my wedding. My wedding would be one. It went by so fast.
Yeah. No, I get it. What do you want your legacy to be?
Serve, support, heal.
Good woman. When your daughters describe you someday, what do you hope they'll say?
I hope that they'll say that they're proud of me and they're proud to be my daughters.
Oh, yeah. What does healing look like for you 5 years from now?
Off medication would be nice. I'm told I say jokes when I'm uncomfortable. So,
Yeah.
But I honestly, having a stronger relationship with my husband and God.
Yeah. How many more years does he have until he can retire?
He's 42. He can retire at 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 8 more and is he out?
I honestly don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah. Well, if he makes captain, that could...
He's back and forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, that could fix it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, if you could sum up your life in one sentence, what would it be?
It's a sentence, but it's a long one.
Yeah, look,
But
hit me with it.
It's kind of my motto. Love like you've never been hurt. Sing like no one's listening. Dance like no one was watching. And live each day like it's your last.
Yeah. Awesome.
Life is so fragile.
It is. And, for me to you, I love the fact that when I reached out to you to come on here, you were like, let's do it. I've actually gotten a little bit of flack from people like, hey, you need to have more females on.
Yeah.
And it's not for lack of trying because I reach out to a lot of people, but I love it that when I reached out to you, you're like, hey man, let's do it. And, it takes courage to come in here and talk about the stuff that you talked about. It takes courage to admit to the things that you admitted to. Girl, you're a warrior. I love what you're doing because anything, I was born to be in service of others. I think you are too. And I think that for you, your next thing is helping people. And I hope it gets as big as you want it to get because I think it's needed. And I think for a lot of years, we both started in this career when it didn't exist. And so keep doing what you're doing. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to say?
Other than thank you for doing this, I appreciate you giving a platform to people who don't necessarily have a place that they can tell their story.
Yeah.
And I'm very I'm a humble person and I don't give myself enough credit sometimes. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are like that. And you highlighting in people's careers, even if it's, just a few listeners that get to hear about it, I think it helps make a difference to talk about where we've been and what we've been through and to share a story and maybe someone else, it'll positively benefit.
I totally
them
agree
to hear it.
I think for us, because we get overshadowed by LA or the Bay Area. And so I'm really trying to highlight Tulare County as a whole because, this is a busy county. I know anything in a first responder in this county is this is a hopping county.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on. And, well, we'll wrap up with a quote that I always give, which is, the siren isn't noisy, it's a promise, right?
Yeah.
And it is.
It is.
And, well, folks, keep watching. Next week, I'll have a new guest coming in. And I want to go ahead and dedicate this episode to my dad, Wayne McWilliams. He passed away back in 2013. But I would like to dedicate this episode to him. So with that, keep watching. Good luck. God bless. Godspeed. And keep watching.